It's time now for the award-winning #1 local talk show in Northeast Pennsylvania, The Sam Lesante Show. Now here's your host, Sam Lesante.
So folks, you're walking down the street and you happen to see a minority person who has a hood on. It's a little dark outside and you start getting nervous. You know, oh my God, is this person going to rob me? You know, I get all these fear because it's a minority and there's a hood. And so automatically we begin to stereotype these individuals. Well, I think when you listen to the show today, we're in for a good education on minorities. Today, we're going to learn about, let me give you some facts here. Although minority youth make up 22% of the population, they account for 76% of the youth in correctional facilities in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Now, research tells us that the youth of color do not commit a higher percentage of crimes than white youth, yet they enter the juvenile system in greater numbers than white counterparts and they stay longer. This is a show about being fair, folks, okay? This is a show about being fair and being honest, okay? We have no agendas here, but I think the people here certainly are going to shed a lot of light on what's happening in society. We want to make it a safe society. We want to be able to work together, as they say, love each other and get along. So I'm very happy and honored to have on my show today Angela Zera, who is the Chief Juvenile Probation Officer in Luzerne County, along with Teresa Klein, who is a Community Probation Officer in Luzerne County, and the Honorable Judge William Amesbury, who is the Administrative Juvenile Court Judge. And first of all, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Nice to have you back, Judge.
Always our pleasure.
I missed you. Okay, I mean, it's about time we get you back here and doing some things that are great. No, I really appreciate Judge Amesbury. Every time I ask him, he's right there. Anyway, Teresa, we're going to get into some areas here, you know, that, you know, we want to educate. That's what we want to do today. We want to educate our people. So tell me about you and what you do.
I am the Community Liaison Probation Officer with Luzerne County Juvenile Probation. I've had that assignment for approximately 14 years. I've been with the office 27, so I've seen a lot of changes for the better over the course of my time with probation.
What do you do then?
I do outreach to the community. I work on special projects. I oversee grants and interns with the office. Speak to a lot of grade schools, high schools, college-age students, just getting the message out about the probation system, the juvenile justice system as a whole.
And what do you tell them? And I mean, not that you don't want the full, you know, some bullet points. What do you tell these young people?
Well, I really work on telling them how they get involved, which is by committing a crime. I try to talk to them about their choices, making good decisions. Really work with them and try to establish what the system is all about and how they avoid entering the system. Pro-social activities, pro-social peers, getting involved in their community.
And when I said when I opened the show about being stereotyping, you know, I guess not young kids in grade school, but, you know, maybe high school students, you know, or older people, where we become fearful. Okay, and this statistic here, and Judge will be giving me some more statistics, which when you have 22% of the population account for 76% of, and the 76% of youth in correctional facilities, okay, that, you know, how do you account for that?
Well, I think that we look at families, we look at interactions with police, and there seems to be some disparity that exists with arrests for our youth,
you know,
of color.
Teresa, I was very fortunate, as well as I'm sure the three of you were, growing up in a family where we would get together every night and have dinner. You know, I practiced our faith, and we had substance. And sometimes you mention that word family, and I think that's so very important today, where the family unit is not there. These young people they expect teachers to educate them. They expect you to educate them, okay? And that's a challenge. Do you see that, or am I just...
Oh, it is a challenge. I think a good number of the kids that we deal with come from either single-parent families, poverty-stricken existence that continues to be a challenge for our kids as they move through grade school, high school, and on.
And my heart breaks for those young kids who are striving for that family contact and they can't get it. So, sometimes you have to see the bad ends of things, which is terrible. But now what we're going to talk about today, it's a disproportionate minority contact. What does that mean?
What it refers to is the disparity that exists between youth of color and their white counterpart in the juvenile justice system. And what we take a look at are the different points of contact where they might enter, where youth of color enter the system and then throughout the juvenile justice process. And what we've decided to really look at, where our biggest disparity exists in Luzerne County, is at the point of contact of arrest. And so we have started to collaborate with the Disproportionate Minority Contacts Youth Law Enforcement Corporation. And we're going to work with them on bringing a curriculum to the county that brings youth and law enforcement to the table and talks about these issues. Again, where our largest disparity exists is at the point of contact of arrest. And what we feel is that if we can improve relationships between law enforcement and youth, that those relationships will get better and that disparity in arrest will reduce.
Okay, so that leads me to you, Judge. We were talking about some statistics, okay? Why don't you fill me in again, fill the viewers in some of the statistics so then we could go to Angela.
Sam, as you said, and let me digress just for a moment, the American dream embodied in the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States has always been about freedom, equality, and justice. What we have in America today is evidenced in our political system, which we see every night on TV, is a continuing polarization among people as to what our society is about and where it's going to go. The heart of our society is our youth. It is our next generation. As you had said, 22% of our American population, our Pennsylvania population, consists of minorities, blacks, Hispanics or Latinos, Asians. Of that 22%, it's interesting to note that 47% of that ends up having interface with police departments throughout the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. That's a startling number. An even more startling number is 67% to 76% of those kids end up in placements. Sam, if we were to look at this from a statistical perspective only, for every one white young male or female, we have 4 young black males or black females. If we were to look at it from the perspective of Hispanic or Latino, that is 2 Hispanic males or females to every 1 white male or female. That's why it's so disproportionate. Now, you had mentioned something earlier that I thought was kind of interesting, and it had to do with the young people, the clothes that they wear, the music that they listen to, and where they hang out. And as you'll remember, if we can go back a few decades, the clothes we wore when we were young, which included bell-bottom pants, boots, tie-dye shirts, and our hair down to our shoulder, was perceived by the generation ahead of us as, if I can use the phrase, off the wall.
Yeah.
And at that time, as is now, there is a culture clash that comes together, and much of that is premised in fear. When a group of kids are standing together and someone calls 911 and 911 connects with the police department, the kids are on the corner. No one's really quite sure what they're doing, except their description fits because the hoodie, the baggy pants, etc. And when the police get the call, they're not quite sure what's going to happen. And when they do come together, there's usually a siren. And the first thing kids do is they skedaddle. You know that. And when I was a young man, if I was faster, I probably wouldn't have been the one they got up with. Mm-hmm. But what happened was this. It created an opportunity for interface, an opportunity for children to meet police. And that's how you start building bridges. You sit down with the communities. You sit down with police. You share experiences. You humanize each other. You create the most important thing, respect.
You know, it's interesting when you say you stereotype. Born and raised in Pardeesville, Pennsylvania, from Italians. And I was blessed because we had Slovak and Polish people in the town, and we all played together, worked together, and you got to know their customs. One night we're having spaghetti, one night we're having a whiskey, and we just worked well together. It was just a beautiful, you know, we all worked together. But I was Italian, still am, and of course I'm in the mafia. Okay, so anytime you're Italian, you get started. He's in the mafia. Okay, so I mean, everyone starts putting labels on you until you begin to know that. Folks, I'm talking to Judge Amesbury, along with, we're going to get to you, Angela. Angela Serra, who is the Chief Juvenile Probation Officer, Teresa Klein, who you just heard from, Community Probation Officer, looking at how we can make things better. Remember, folks, I know a lot of seniors are scared. They're always getting nervous when they see a minority person. But the judge hit it right in the head. Remember when, I wish I still had, hair down on my shoulders and the bell bottoms, that guy, was he on dope? Is he on LSD, etc.? So we stereotype. We come back, we have a lot more to talk about. Stay with us. Thanks for staying with us, folks. You're watching the Sam Lesante Show. Remember, 24/7, you can watch all of the shows we produce on ssptv.com. My email is sam@ssptv.com. Now, a little homework for you, folks, just so you know. In Service Electric Cablevision in the greater Hazleton area, 50-some thousand households, we're on Channel 13 and HD at 513. And greater Pottsville, Channel 190, Comcast. Mountaintop Channel 92 on Saturday evenings and Sunday evenings, and now Lackawanna County, 72,000 more households we're adding on to our list Saturdays and Sunday mornings, 8 to 12 p.m. Folks, my guest today, Judge Amesbury, Bill Amesbury, who is the Administrative Juvenile Court Judge, along with Teresa Klein, who is the Community Probation Officer in Luzerne County, and Angela Serra, who is the Chief Juvenile Probation Officer, talking about the minorities today and the way people view them. So, Bill, there's a program in Luzerne County. Could you take us from there?
What I want to do is let you know that Luzerne County is involving Black community, Hispanic communities, in the person of Reverend Michael Brewster, who is pastor of Mount Zion Baptist Church in Wilkes-Barre, Amilcar Arroyo, and his Hispanic group that we will meet with later today. And these are going to bring to us the young people that we will be able to sit down at tables with police in order to break down the distrust and to build respect. But Sam, that's only one facet of all the things that we do in the Juvenile Probation Office. And there's no one better equipped to tell you more about that than our Angela there, who's our Chief Juvenile Probation Officer.
So Angela, tell me about, Chief Juvenile Probation Officer. I said to her, she said, I'm the Chief Probation Officer. So fill us in on what this project's all about.
The project itself is a lot of background work that's going on right now. Teresa Klein actually headed the department initiative for us, wrote a grant, secured the grant. But even prior to that, she's been working behind the scenes, getting work groups together to really bring people to the table that can help us identify what is the underlying issue. It is about building relationships, especially between the law enforcement and the youth at this time. Teresa might be better equipped at this point to really fill you in on the actual workings of the project itself. But it is one of our initiatives that we have going on. In juvenile justice, we have many things going on in our office, and all of them are kind of revolving around building relationships and a sense of community for youth.
So what do you do as the Chief Juvenile Probation Officer?
Well, I run daily operations for the Juvenile Probation Department. I also still assist in the daily to-dos with the children and their issues, because I supervise field officers as well. I look at policy issues, and we try and focus the department as to what can help with our community.
Now, do you set probation, or do you ask the judge, do you make recommendations whether a person should be on probation, or how does that work?
Well, as an overhead in my position, I oversee probation officers who work in the community with kids under supervision. So I do supervise the intake department. That would be our first place where kids coming into our department are. The intake department is working with our risk assessment that we utilize in the department. That gives us a good picture of the kids as to what their strengths and their weak areas are. So we want to really target interventions on those weak areas, but continue to strengthen the good areas.
This disproportionate minority contact, okay? Describe the meaning of that. What does that really mean?
The disproportionate minority contact is when we look at certain contact points. So as Teresa mentioned, there's an arrest point, but then there's also a diversion point. There's a placement point, as the judge alluded to, with the statistic of the high placements of minority youth. So right now, what we have looked at in our statistics is there is an elevated score in the arrest area, which means that if a minority youth is being arrested at a higher rate than their white counterpart is being arrested. So we are trying to look at that. The whole disproportionate minority contact initiative that we are doing is about building relationships and teaching a curriculum to both the law enforcement and the youth to get them to understand each other's struggles.
A very good friend of mine, Father Grippy, who I have lunch with each week and we have a great time, we were talking about different things in the Catholic Church and how people sometimes don't understand. And he said to me, he says, Sammy, we have to educate, we have to educate, we have to educate. And same thing goes here, Bill. I mean, what we're doing is educate, educate, educate. You never judge, as they say, that book by its cover.
Right.
So getting back to you then, taking this in this particular disproportionate minority contact, so what will the county be doing and in terms of educating our people?
Yes. What we did was put together a work group, and that work group consists of all of the folks who supported the grant and the writing of the grant. So we're talking about the judge and the court, as well as district attorney, public defender's office, the Luzerne County Juvenile Justice Task Force, our CJAB, which is the Community Justice Advisory Board. We also have Wilkes University on board with our grant. And we put those folks together to formulate a work group that is going to dig in and see where the problems exist and see what groups we can bring to the table to start the discussion about the problems that exist in the community or on the street corner, as the judge alluded to. And so we have put together a work group. We're still a work in progress. We've had 6 meetings where we meet monthly, and we're just looking to pinpoint the problem and then working with the PADMC Youth Law Enforcement Corporation, really try to put together youth forums whereby we educate both the youth and the law enforcement folks as to what their fears are, what their strengths are. They talk about adolescent brain development. We talk some very real and raw emotional situations whereby an interaction might cause fear both in the law enforcement officer and the youth. And we try to sort of dig down and dwindle those misconceptions that you alluded to earlier.
That's a challenge.
Yes, it is
a very,
a challenge.
You know, when you're talking about fear, you know, these young people that don't have that family togetherness, you know, then they allude to gangs, you know, and they get involved with gangs because they have something to be a part of.
Right.
And boy, that's where the education really comes in, getting into the community, getting involved, trying to, you know, we have HIP up here in Hazleton, which is, the minority groups, there's no such as you're black, you're Stanley. They all work together, okay? And I know it's the elderly people sometimes that see this polarization, as you said, okay? And unfortunately, Bill, you're right. The politicians have a tendency of putting black against white and Hispanics, okay, and which is terrible, you know, it's just a sad thing. So I applaud what we're doing. We come back, folks, we're going to learn a little bit more about this disproportionate minority contact. And this is not a matter of siding with anyone. I think it's a matter of educating us as to how we become better. And boy, I feel so sorry for those young minority people, the young kids who do not have the families. And the family is the most important part, folks. And yet, what is the media trying to do? Destroy the family. Isn't this interesting? Stay with us. Welcome back to the Sam Lesante Show, folks. My guest today, Judge Bill Amesbury, no stranger to the Sam Lesante Show, who is the Administrative Juvenile Court Judge, along with Teresa Klein, who is a Community Probation Officer of Luzerne County, and Angela Serra, who is the Chief Juvenile Probation Officer in Luzerne County. So, Judge, the purpose of today's show, okay, I know we're going to have part two, which I'm looking forward to, just to follow up with the Reverend and Amilcar Arroyo. Give me a synopsis of what this show is all about, what we're trying to get across to our viewers.
Sam, America, freedom, okay, equality, justice, the opportunity for everyone to grow to fulfill his or her future potential. One of the things that brings young people down is having a juvenile delinquency record and the collateral effects associated with it. Having young people meet police and break down some of those barriers, that fear that exists at the time of the initial contact, is a first step toward developing the ultimate goal, which is mutual respect and understanding. This is not easy. I come from a single parent family. I understand the difficulties. We need to develop jobs out there for kids as well. But having them, okay, in our community and not in our placement facilities, having them eligible for gainful employment, bringing home a paycheck and living the America dream, and that dream is still alive. Well, that's what we're going to do.
I think this is just great, you know, to bring this information. And like I said, there are people that stereotype, and rightly, I guess they see what's happening and they get nervous. But through these courses, and believe me, Teresa and Angela, you have your work cut out for you. But you're on the right track, okay? And Bill, you're welcome anytime. You always bring some great subject matter to the show. I'm just hoping, folks, that you participate wherever you can. Open mind, I know when I was a kid, my father brought me down to Philadelphia in the contracting business. I never saw a black person in my life. Went there, I was 12 years old, and got out of the car and saw 3 black people. Oh my God, I was scared. For what? I mean, it was just like, they turned out to be such great people. Family, just like, and we all want to get along. You're absolutely right. It's loving people, understanding people. Congratulations to you. You got a good challenge, and you got a good person there who's heading to get the good judge. You're welcome anytime, Judge. You know that, right?
We'll be back, Sam.
It's not going to be turned into the Judge Amesbury show. It's still the Sam Lesante show. So, folks, remember, 24/7, you can watch this show on ssptv.com. Now, listen, if you'd like to get in touch with them or any information you'd like to have, it's 570-408-8210. The website is padmc.org. Okay, that's 570-408-8210, and the website is padmc.org. We'll see you next time.